They passed her without looking. A woman sitting under the streetlight, wrapped in an old coat, her hair tangled, her hands trembling around a cardboard sign that read, "Just need a little kindness." Most didn't even slow down. Some stared, then looked away fast, guilt flickering in their eyes like the glow of passing headlights. But one man, with grease-stained hands and tired eyes, stopped. He didn't say much, just knelt, handed her a sandwich and whispered, "You look cold. Eat this before it freezes." He walked away before she could even thank him. That night, under a sky full of city stars and car fumes, Emily Ross, award-winning TV journalist, felt her throat tighten. She had come to expose how cruel the world had become. Instead, she was discovering something she'd long forgotten: humanity. Toronto's streets glimmered with winter's bite, Christmas lights hanging from lampposts like false promises of warmth. Emily pulled her scarf tighter, hiding the microphone wire beneath her tattered coat. Her plan was simple, or so she thought. Go undercover for 7 days, record people's reactions, prove that kindness had vanished in modern society. The documentary was meant to be raw, emotional, and brutally honest, her redemption piece after being accused of sensationalizing stories for ratings. But now, standing outside a bakery with her fingers stiff from the cold, she wondered if this was worth it. Her cameraman, Jordan, watched discreetly from across the street, pretending to be a busker. They'd worked together for years, chasing breaking news, exposing corruption, and always believing they were on the right side of truth. A woman brushed past Emily, muttering something about junkies. A teenage boy tossed a half-eaten muffin her way, laughing. Emily's heart sank. Each insult hit harder than the cold. She had interviewed hundreds of people living on the streets before, but wearing their pain, feeling invisible, was something else entirely. As night fell, she took shelter near a subway grate. Her camera, hidden beneath her bag, recorded every passing shadow. "No one cares anymore," she whispered to herself, her breath forming clouds in the dark. But then, faintly, she heard a voice. "Hey, are you hungry?" She looked up to see him, the mechanic from the auto shop down the street. His name was Jack. His jacket was old, his boots worn, but his eyes were gentle. He offered her a sandwich wrapped in foil and said, "It's not much, but it's warm." She nodded, unable to speak. He didn't ask her story. He just smiled, then turned back into the night. Emily couldn't stop thinking about him. The next morning, she found herself wandering toward his shop. The sign read, "Jack's Auto Repair." Through the window, she saw him fixing a car, music playing softly in the background, a little boy sitting on a stool near him drawing with crayons. The boy, maybe 6 or 7, looked up and waved when he saw her. She froze. Jack noticed and came out, wiping his hands. "Hey, you're the lady from last night, right?" His voice was kind but cautious. "You okay?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, just needed some air. Thanks for helping me yesterday." He shrugged. "No one should go hungry. You want coffee? It's nothing fancy, but it's warm." Inside the small garage, the air smelled of oil and bread. Jack poured her a cup and handed it over. "That's my son, Mason," he said, nodding toward the boy. "He's my little helper. Keeps me from losing my mind." Mason smiled shyly, then offered her half a cookie. Emily's eyes watered. It was such a small thing, a child's innocent kindness, but it pierced deeper than any headline she'd ever written. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a reporter, not as a name on TV, but as a person. She left the shop with a strange ache in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. It wasn't pity, it wasn't guilt. It was something purer, something she feared losing once the truth came out. Over the next few days, Emily kept returning, always in her disguise. She'd tell herself it was for research, to observe kindness in its rarest form. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. She just wanted to see them again. Jack and Mason. Jack started keeping a thermos of soup ready for her. "City gets cold fast," he'd say. "Can't have you freezing out there." He never asked what happened to her, never assumed she was lazy, addicted, or broken. To him, she was just someone who deserved a meal. One evening, while Mason showed her his drawings, Jack admitted quietly, "People think being poor means you failed, but sometimes life just knocks you sideways. You just keep fixing what you can." His words hit her harder than he knew. Emily remembered how her own career had taken a turn, how a single controversial story had cost her trust, reputation, and almost her job. Maybe she wasn't so different from the people she pitied. That night, sitting by the river with her camera off for the first time, she whispered into the wind, "Maybe kindness still exists, just not where I was looking." Jordan confronted her on the 5th day. "Emily, this isn't journalism anymore," he said, his tone sharp but worried. "You're getting too close. We came to film a story, not live it." She frowned. "What's wrong with finding the truth? Isn't that what we do?" "The truth doesn't mean falling for your subject," he snapped. Her silence said everything. She didn't deny it. She couldn't, because every time Jack smiled or Mason laughed, the world felt less cruel. But the more she cared, the heavier the guilt grew. Jack had opened his world to her, a stranger he thought was homeless, and she'd lied to him from the start. That night, as snow began to fall, Emily watched the city lights blur through her tears. "What kind of kindness am I testing?" she whispered. "If I'm lying to the kindest man I've ever met." On the 6th day, the documentary footage was ready. Jordan sent her a clip, people ignoring her, sneering, avoiding eye contact, and then Jack, the moment he offered her food. It was pure, unfiltered compassion. Her producer called. "This is gold, Emily. The contrast, apathy versus empathy, it's everything we need. The network's already interested." But Emily didn't feel proud. She felt sick. Jack had never agreed to be filmed. His son's face appeared in a few frames, too. The thought of exploiting that moment, their kindness, for ratings felt like betrayal. She texted Jordan, "We're not airing it yet." Then she went to Jack's shop. He was working late, Mason asleep on the couch inside. Emily stood at the door, heart pounding. "Jack," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you."
Jack looked confused. "You okay? You look scared." "I lied to you," she began, voice trembling. "My name isn't Sarah. I'm not homeless. I'm a reporter." The silence was suffocating. Jack stepped back, disbelief flooding his face. "You're kidding, right?" She shook her head, tears streaming. "I was making a documentary about kindness. I wanted to see if people still cared." He laughed bitterly. "So I was an experiment?" "No, you were. You are the only real thing I found." His jaw tightened. "You had a camera on me, on my son." Her chest ached. "I turned it off when I was with you. I swear I couldn't do that to you." Jack looked away, eyes glistening. "Get out, Emily. Whatever truth you were chasing, you lost it the moment you lied." The next morning, Emily sat in her apartment surrounded by the footage. Every frame felt like a mirror reflecting her own hypocrisy. Her editor's voice echoed in her voicemail. "We need that story, Emily. You'll win back your career with this one." But she didn't want her career anymore, not if it cost her the only honest connection she'd found. She played the clip of Jack handing her the sandwich. His quiet words replayed. "You look cold. Eat before it freezes. Her tears blurred the screen. He gave me warmth, she whispered, and I gave him lies. Emily made a decision. She opened her laptop and began editing a new version, one that told the truth, including her own deceit. A confession, not a documentary. When the video aired, it was raw, painful, and unfiltered. She exposed herself completely, her doubts, her guilt, and the kindness of a man who'd helped her without knowing who she was. The public reaction was explosive. People were furious at her deception, but moved by the honesty of her apology. Donations poured into local shelters. Volunteers signed up in record numbers. Something had shifted. Jack, however, didn't respond. Not to her calls, not to her letter. Weeks passed. The ache in Emily's chest grew heavier with each day. She thought maybe she'd lost him forever, and maybe she deserved to. One snowy evening, she walked past Jack's shop, not intending to stop. But there he was outside, fixing a car under a flickering streetlight. He looked up and saw her. For a moment, neither spoke. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I know," she replied. "I just wanted to say thank you. You reminded me that kindness isn't a story, it's a choice." Jack sighed, rubbing his hands together. "You made me look like a fool on camera. I made myself one too," she said softly. "But your kindness changed lives, Jack. You don't see it yet, but it did." He looked at her for a long time, then said, "Maybe next time you want to see kindness, just be honest about who you are." Days later, a letter arrived at Emily's door. No return address. Inside, a drawing Mason's crayon art of 3 people standing by a car, smiling. On the back, Jack's handwriting, "He misses you. Maybe we can start over this time with no disguises." Her hands shook as she read it. It wasn't forgiveness, not entirely, but it was hope. She returned to the shop the next morning, this time dressed as herself. No hidden cameras, no script. Just Emily, the woman who had once forgotten how to believe in people. Jack looked up and smiled faintly. "You still like coffee?" She nodded. "Only if you're making it."
As months passed, Emily continued reporting, but differently. Her stories now focused on small acts of kindness, people who made quiet differences. She visited shelters, interviewed volunteers, and highlighted real struggles, with empathy, not exploitation. Jack and Mason slowly became part of her life. Mason would wave whenever she came by, always with a new drawing for her. Jack stayed cautious but kind. They never spoke of the past much. It hung quietly between them, like winter fog. But trust began to rebuild, piece by fragile piece. One evening, Emily filmed a story about a charity repairing cars for struggling single parents. Jack volunteered without telling her. When she arrived at the event and saw him there, laughing with other mechanics, she couldn't stop smiling. Later, as they packed up, he said, "Guess we're both trying to fix things? You with stories, me with engines?" She laughed softly. "Yeah, maybe we're not that different." For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like a reporter observing life from behind a lens. She felt like she was finally part of it. Spring melted the snow, and the city bloomed again. Emily's documentary, Finding Humanity, won an award, not for scandal, but for sincerity. During her acceptance speech, she thanked A stranger who taught me that kindness doesn't need cameras to be real. Jack watched the broadcast from his shop. Mason clapped and said proudly, "That's Emily!" Jack smiled faintly. Maybe it was time to forgive her fully. That weekend, Emily visited them again. They fixed an old car together, her trying, failing, and laughing through it. Mason took pictures with a little toy camera. "Now I'm the reporter," he joked. Jack leaned against the hood. "So, Ms. Ross, still testing humanity?" She smiled. "No, just living it." He nodded slowly. "Good, because sometimes kindness needs to be lived, not proven." Months later, Emily and Jack walked with Mason through the park, watching people feed pigeons and help an old man with his groceries. Emily turned to Jack. "You were right. There's more kindness out there than we think." Jack looked at her, his hand brushing hers. "Maybe you just needed to stop pretending to see it." She smiled, her heart full. No more pretending. As the sun dipped below the skyline, the city lights flickered to life, not cold and distant like before, but warm and alive. For Emily Ross, the woman who once disguised herself to find compassion, the truth was finally clear. Kindness still existed, not in stories or headlines, but in the quiet hearts of people who chose to care, even when no one was watching. And this time, she wasn't watching from behind a camera. She was living it.